Yes, the Blue Jays had a bad season last year by their standards, but they've reloaded properly this past offseason and are ready for October again. Let's have a look at this reloaded roster and how I think they'll perform to their schedule. When it comes to their roster, they made some pretty good acquisitions. Curtis Granderson is an interesting fit in Rogers Center, and he's an interesting leadoff choice for the Blue Jays as of right now. And then there's also Randall Grichuk and Aledmys Diaz. Randall Grichuk is actually a nice fit in Rogers Center. Aledmys Diaz, we'll see how it goes, but I think he'll be good depth at the very least for once Tulo comes back, and then they still have Yangervis Solarte, whom we'll get to. And they still have guys like Josh Donaldson. Justin Smoke was excellent last year. And then there's also Russell Martin still. Not as good anymore, but they also have Kendrys Morales and Kevin PR and Devin Travis. So, the lineup gets a B+. It gets a B+ for me. And then when it comes to their bench, they have Luke Miley, whom I'm not as high on, but they also have Yangervis Solarte and Steve Pearce. Pearce is actually diagnosed with a strained calf and questionable for opening day, but they do have also Danny Henson, a prospect that should be coming up this year in 2018, late 2018. There's also Reese McGuire who could come up, and they also have Rowdy Tellez and Danny Espinoza, and Richard Urena, another prospect that could come up this year. Maybe even Lourdes Gurriel could come up this year. We'll see about that though. And then Anthony Alford, another prospect that could come up this year and get significant time if there's an injury or if Curtis Granderson truly is past his prime and they decide to move on from him. And then there's also Dalton Pompey and Teoscar Hernandez. So I'm giving this depth a B+. It's almost as much of a surplus as the Brewers, but they still it's good. It's a good amount of depth for me to feel confident in their hitting core maintaining their pace throughout the season, unless there's a major injury and multiple major injuries. So then Tulo is another guy that I haven't touched over yet, but he does have an ankle injury and he is not expected to be ready for opening day, but hopefully he'll return in the season, be solid enough for what they have right now. In terms of their depth, I give it a B+ also. And so now when it comes to their rotation, this is a pretty good rotation in its own right as well. J.A. Happ, Aaron Sanchez, Marcus Stroman is currently dealing with shoulder inflammation, but then they also have Jaime Garcia, whom they picked up, and Marco Estrada. Jaime Garcia is an interesting fit in Rogers Center also. We'll see how that goes, but their rotation is pretty good. And then in terms of guys in the minors for their rotation, well, first of all, there is someone on the restricted list who tested positive for PEDs in Thomas Pannone. So yeah, he'll be suspended for 80 games. And then in the rotation, there is a prospect that could come up in Ryan Baruki. Mid-2018 is his MLB ETA. There's also Sean Reed Foley, who could come up this year. Late 2018 is his MLB ETA. And as a whole, I'm giving their rotation a grade of a B. And then when it comes to the bullpen, this is it's decent. There's Roberto Osuna. There's Seung Hwan Oh. And there are some guys that could be potentially good, and there's also Tyler Clippard and John Axford. Tyler Clippard is past his prime. John Axford, same deal, but to the more extreme. So I'm gonna give their bullpen a C+. Carlos Ramirez is out with shoulder discomfort for opening day. He's questionable for opening day, that is. So we'll see how that goes for them. But for right now, their bullpen gets a grade of a C+, something that they could look to upgrade at around the deadline. We'll see how that goes for the Blue Jays, but a pretty solid roster if I say so myself. A lot of people are discouraged to pick the Blue Jays to go to the playoffs this season, but I'm not. They reloaded properly and have the depth necessary to accommodate for injuries that may happen during the season. They have a more proven rotation than the Athletics and better depth than the Athletics too. Combine all of that with an easy schedule and you have October baseball returning to Toronto. And that's really why I have them making the playoffs, because the fact that you face pushovers like the Phillies and the Marlins and the Mets will be key, and you have to win those series. Otherwise, you might just slip up in the playoff race to a team like Oakland. In terms of the over-under from Fangraphs, it's 87 and 75. They're high on the Blue Jays also. I'm going a bit over at 90 and 72, and third in the AL East and getting that second AL wildcard spot. Let me know if you agree. Let me know why I'm severely overhyping this team. It is a predictions video, and that's what predictions are all about. But that'll do it for this Blue Jays edition of MLB Season Previews in the 2018 season, and so long.